ever found that game that just clicks with you? Like, you're playing it, and it just feels like it knows you. It knows what you're interested in, knows what you like, and it knows what makes you laugh. You are as much as it as you. That is how I would describe Anton Blast. I don't think you understand how much I've wanted to talk about this game. I've been waiting for this thing to come out for 3 years, and god damn it, I'm so excited. I don't think there's any other game I followed for as long as this one, if I'm gonna be real. It should be no surprise at this point that I am a huge fan of all Wario games. Every game with Wario in it just kind of has that style that you can't really get anywhere else. That unbridled chaos and brain-dead kind of humor that's one of a kind, 3 of a kind. Wario Land has been dead in the ground for longer than I could form sentences, so it's no surprise indie teams have come along to scratch that Wario Land itch. Torre de Pizza with the hugely successful Pizza Tower from 2022, and now Summit Sphere with Anton Blast. A breakneck 2D platformer with an unattainable grunge is the perfect successor to a 2D platformer Pong hybrid. Anton Ball. It happened, this video is not about Anton Ball. I actually really like this game, but it is hardly f***ing related. The only thing these two games share in common is a protagonist. Right, so the plot of the game is about as nonsensical as you would think. Satan has discovered there is somebody who is redder than he is, in which he sends his army of moles out to go and screw with him by taking all of his alcohol and beckoning him to go fight Satan one-on-one in hell. The plot is obviously dumb as shit on purpose, and I love that. With Anton grabbing his signature Anton hammer, we're off to go figure out what these ants are on, with level 1, Boiler City, serving as the perfect introduction for me to explain how you Anton Blast. It's obviously similar to Wario Land 4 in terms of how it controls, but a somewhat unforeseen turn of events. It's also similar to Crash Bandicoot and Crash Team Racing of all things. See, down in the bottom right hand side of the screen, there's this funny little meter, unmistakably the same one from CTR. How it works in Crash is when you start a drift, it'll begin to fill up until it hits a certain threshold. When it passes this little line, you can hit R in order to get a little boost. And it's pretty much the same in Anton Blast. Hitting X will let you do a clutch. I'm 50% sure that's what it's called, in which Anton will begin running forward holding his hammer behind him. Hitting it again when the meter is most of the way full will let you continue running. So you have to time button presses in this sequence in order to maintain the speed. On top of that, clutching right before you hit an enemy will send them flying. But if you hit X super precisely before hitting an enemy, you'll mow them down like an unstoppable Beyblade, destroying any poor soul that happens to cross paths with you. But that's not all. Hitting B will let you slide, and hitting B in the air will let you perform the Antomic Bomb. It's basically a ground pound. But if you want the same concept, except really funny for when new players are trying to play the game, hitting the clutch button in the air will perform the hammer drop. It's probably called that. Making Anton slam into the ground and go upwards, letting you break boxes and femurs. But you see, the nuance of how Anton controls doesn't come from all these random moves thrown together, it's how they can combo with one another. Anton's jump not only doesn't go far, but it doesn't go very high. It's really only used for smaller platforming here and there. The hammer drop lets you go higher, but takes longer to get that height, as well as pretty much going nowhere horizontally. But let's say you combine the clutch with the hammer drop, and suddenly it sends you flying. Or if you slide into a jump, you'll get this little spin attack. Or holding down a slope, literally that's just Wario Land. Dynamite Anton controls like a dream. It might seem like it's going to be entirely overbearing for newcomers, but I was pretty much able to grasp everything it was throwing at me almost instantly. I would say this is the perfect middle ground between the complexity and button combos of Pizza Tower and the simplicity of Wario Land 4. Anton Blast might genuinely be my favorite controlling platformer ever made. It just feels like all of these moves are useful somehow. LT is the scream button. It just feels like most of these moves are useful somehow. This genuinely might be one of my favorite controlling platformers, hands down. The flow state and fluidity you can reach here is unparalleled in my opinion. A lot of platformers that focus on speed, like Sonic or what have you, always reach that wall for me. Metaphorically and literally. You'll be having a good time going fast, then suddenly, boom, you stop moving. A sudden stop that halts all momentum. Now, sometimes that's because of a puzzle you need to solve or a precise piece of platforming, but a lot of the time it's just random shit like a ledge or an enemy you can't see coming. I feel like Anton Blast never has this problem. Because of how much of a rolling terror Anton is when he's in motion, it feels like there's nothing that could possibly stand in his way. It's like so hard to describe what this game does to my brain. It's like there's this little Anton bug in my brain rewiring me so I can have a faster reaction time and be able to process all of the bullshit this game throws at you. And of course, none of this would be possible if the level design wasn't as immaculate as it is. As you might be expecting based off the other Wario Land indie game, which I'm trying to bring up as little as possible as comparison,
something. At the end of every level, you'll activate Happy Hour. You step on a big clock and run back to the beginning of the level, the way things should be. But of course, it's more nuanced than that. The game has dozens of unique elements that separate it from the likes of Wario Land, like the card blocks. Scattered throughout all of the levels are these little blocks that are unbreakable and can't be broken. What you'll need to do is find a switch somewhere else in order to break all of them. Typically somewhere in the background or off to a different route, like through a door or something. I love these because no matter what, they guarantee the player will have to go down a different route when it's Happy Hour. Also because it encourages another great strength of the game, being its small challenge segments. To break up the constant breakneck break, you'll have these usually vertical areas where you have to scale to a switch in order to progress. I love these not only because it forces you to slow down and actually play precisely, but also because that's where the level's specific gimmicks can really shine. But I'm getting ahead of myself. There's nothing really unique going on with Boiler City outside of being the first level, so we're swiftly moving along to the hub world, consisting of Brulo's bar. This yellow fella is the barkeep, assumingly, and is having a bit of a satanic panic. Yeah, the moles that were sent to mess with Anton and his drinking issue also hit Brulo pretty bad. His bar serves as your main place of operation, and he himself serves as the shop.
Throughout the levels, there are poker chips scattered throughout, and his shop is where you can put all of these to use. You can usually buy some dumb shit like a balloon or spray paint.
Most of the stuff he sells is consumable, so a one-time use extra hit point or an extra minute on the timer. He'll start selling more permanent stuff later like health upgrades, but we're not quite there as of now. There's a bunch of other stuff here like the ability to change to Annie, who I'll get to later. I won't get to later, I was lied to, she doesn't have a different campaign. You can look at how long you've played and a bunch of other junk, but we're not quite there yet. We're slow roast sewer yet. You see, every level past the first one brings something new to the table. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 new mechanics, other times it's 4. This one introduces water with swimming as well as rideable shark torpedoes. Sometimes it might feel like it's going to be really overbearing with how much shit it throws at the wall, and how it expects you to adapt to all of it on the fly. But if I'm being honest, it never got to that point of feeling like too much. So many of the level-specific mechanics it throws at you are simple enough to understand immediately, but complex enough to just be a little challenging. And I love how the game outside of cutscenes never stops you for anything. Genuinely, there are no tutorials. There's text you can read in the first level explaining to you how to play, but I blitzkrieged right past that shit. I played the Dynamite demo more times than I've seen my father this year. I don't need no fuddy-duddy teaching, thanks. Each and every one of these levels is bursting with its own personality and identity. From all of them having their own little defining gimmicks, or to when you enter them through the elevator having this little splash screen giving them their own logos. It's so fresh every time you enter a new stage, because they never reuse anything. Bomb Candy Mines. Anton gets turned into a bomb that can bounce around and dash in the air, and blow up specific blocks. You will never see this again. Even Pizza Tower, for as unique as it was, pretty much doing the same thing, it still reused things in other levels. That just never happens here.
As I've gotten older, it's been pretty hard for me to want to sit down and just play a video game. Most of my free time is now just spent like drawing or making YouTube videos, so it's been really hard for me to just sit down and play a video game if I'm not just making a video for it. So often I'll just be sitting down playing a video game and feel like I'm wasting time because I could be doing something better with all of that free time. I did not get this feeling with Anton Blast.
Anton Blast is genuinely a game I could just not put down. With how impeccable the movement is to the unique level gimmicks, it just never got old. There's this one level called Big Bath that's based off those liminal space images that changes every time you move a little bit. Pinball Mire has this entire escape segment where it's just a pinball machine. And my personal favorite is the Concrete Jungle that just throws everything it can at the wall and has 4 different new mechanics all interlocking and working beautifully. It introduces Bouncy Jam that'll uncontrollably shoot you upwards, Jam on the walls that will let you stick to it and climb around, these green monkey guys that'll throw you in whichever direction you hold, and Grind Rails, where he'll use his hammer as a pissing skateboard. You guys ever play Spectre of Torment? All of these feel so random and disconnected, but by golly, they made it work. That's the best way I can describe these levels. They just work. The most annoyed I felt in the entire game was during that pinball machine segment where I thought I had to go upwards, but in reality I just had to go down. That was it. I never had that moment where I'm playing the game and I had to drag my feet through a level because it's not fun. Which is impressive considering these levels can be upwards to 15 to 20 minutes. The levels are quite long, which I think might turn off a lot of people, but I think they're justifiably so. I mean, yet again, 4 new gimmicks in the Concrete Jungle, come on. I think my favorite level by far is the last one.
Oh yeah, I guess I should specify spoiler for the rest of this video. Long story short, buy the game.
But the final level instead starts you by landing on the Happy Hour switch, and is a 7-minute gauntlet of everything in the game up until this point. It's insane and I love it. It even makes it to where you can get all of the collectibles during this. Oh yeah, 4 collectibles per stage, a cassette which can be played in this cassette player area, which is usually some nonsense like gnome encounter, spray paint which gives Anton a new palette, some random collectible that is related to a stage, and a drink themed after other characters. And they hide these things pretty damn well too. I'll blast through an entire stage and miss like all of them, wondering where the hell they could have possibly been hidden. Usually they're behind some kind of puzzle or a really small detail that takes a keen eye to notice. All of these level designs are just so perfect. They feel tailor-made for exactly how you would want to move around as Anton or Annie. What I think complements this is the enemies. Most enemies in really any 2D platformer are just kind of there to hurt the player, not much else. But following suit with Wario Land, they can also help you progress. Most of them are just there as speed bumps, but others serve as core mechanics to traversal. These moles with guns inside of pinball mire let you hammer flip off of their bullets, letting you get higher. These crabs and bomb candy mines will throw you upwards into higher areas if you jump on them. These giant fish from the mysterious glass house can break paths forward for you.
To how Anton controls, to how the levels are laid out, to how the enemies help with that, it feels like everything's going in a big circle to lift everything up gradually. It just feels like hypnotic playing Anton Blast because of how everything works.
Now to break up the action between levels is the boss fights. You'll have your mini bosses of the different busters like Brawl Buster, Tall Buster, and so on. But you also have the real fights like Jewel Ghoul, Freako Dragon, and Ring-a-Ding. All of these little freaks are so enjoyable to fight against. My favorite definitely is Freako Dragon. You start off the first phase by just hitting him like you would any other boss. Then the second one by bouncing on the individual segments of his body while trying to avoid him attacking you. And into the final one where he's flying away and you have to drill through him up until you get to his head, which you crash him into the earth, landing in Brazil. This game is f***ing insane. The only, and I mean only, boss in the game I disliked was one of the many mini bosses, being Small Buster. You see, all of the big boy bosses get checkpoints during the phase transitions, so if you die you don't get sent back to the very start. None of the mini bosses get this, however, because, well, they're smaller. But Small Buster has so much damn downtime that an attempt lasts like 3 minutes of just standing there, waiting for it to punch you, waiting for it to shoot missiles, waiting for it to shoot whatever. I like the boss a lot in concept. It kind of reminds me of Bad Piggies with all the inventions it creates, but they just make you wait so damn long. But really, that's the only boss I disliked. The rest of them are amazing. I'll touch on the final boss at the end, but I wanted to talk about a bunch of other stuff first. Like one of my favorite parts of the game, which is, without a shadow of a doubt, the charm. This game, from all sides, is just oozing with style.
Ew.
It perfectly captures that comedy element most Wario games have. All of these wacky and expressive faces, these little intermissions with Satan while a level is loading, all of the wacky transformations, it's all just so intoxicating with how charming it is. Like, there's this one area in the hub world that's a park that all of the people on Kickstarter who paid $200 have their OCs in. It's incredible. I would consider that $200 well spent in my opinion, because this might be one of my favorite games visually. It's not too messy where everything looks insane, and it's not too clean to where everything looks too sanitized. This is the perfect in-between, and dear God, I love it. Every sprite just feels like it has so much passion and soul. Anton getting scared when he's falling from a great height, the smear frames when you pull off a perfect clutch. This game is goddamn beautiful. Every animation just feels so expressive and full of life. It's like they're not even being animated, it's just like they're doing all of this in real time. It's insanely impressive. I want this game on my wall. It's unbelievable the amount of work that must have gone into this game to make it as expressive as it is. And one of my favorite bits that puts this above a lot of other pixel art platformers for me is, say it with me now, I have no idea what you're about to say, but it's probably not even close to what I was going to. It has voice acting, and damn good voice acting at that. Right before the first boss, Satan and Anton get to chat, and their interactions together are so funny. Gianni Matrigano as Satan was such a good pick.
I heard they're making Anton Twinsanity.
Or Anton talking with Brulo, it makes all of these cutscenes so much more enjoyable. If they didn't have voice acting, I probably just wouldn't care. But because they do, it makes it feel like I'm watching a Saturday morning cartoon or something. Or more accurately, something on like Adult Swim. That's also just because of how damn funny the game is. So many little moments like Small Buster firing a barrage of missiles that just reverse in time and they look dead at the camera had me grinning from ear to ear. There's this one little devil in Cinnamon Springs that comments how beautiful the landscape is, in which the game allows you to destroy all of it, in which that same guy will call you a special kind of jackass. Throughout the entirety of Crimson Factory, there are no card blocks to be seen, until the very end where you get chased by this giant CG devil, where you'll use the explosives triggered by the cards in order to defeat it. That boss I brought up earlier called Ring-a-Ding actually kills Anton in the middle of the fight, but he comes back as a ghost just to kill the bell. And then after he does that, the bell comes back as a fucking biblically accurate angel and throws the moon at you.
Everything in this game just feels like it was put here to make you laugh. Like the Brazil thing with the dragon. All of this feels like it's just trying to make you chuckle, and god damn it if that isn't special.
Another thing I think is particularly good is the music. Legitimately, aside from the Big Bath, which is just like no music on purpose, every single song on the OST is insanely catchy. My favorite one has to be The Mysterious Glass House, which samples vocals from a Persona song of all things. I'm not playing it, go listen to the OST yourself. I have yet to find a single song from this game that I don't think is good. And that's a feat because my playtime by the end of here was like 6 hours. Now take that with a grain of salt because I stopped at multiple points while leaving the game open, so I could do stuff like script this very video, but it's definitely around there for a casual run through. This is a meaty ass platformer, man. Crazy considering it only has 12 stages, but nevertheless it's a pretty sizable game, and you can go ahead and triple that if we're talking about replay value. Yes, there are only 12 stages, but after you beat one, keeping in line with Crash Bandicoot, there are multiple different challenges you can go for inside of them. There's the time trial with different rankings depending on how fast you can go through them, with time crates you can break in order to pause the timer periodically. Must I bring up what this is in reference to? And the combo chain. I'm trying to compare this game as little to Pizza Tower as possible, but literally just this is just fucking Pizza Tower combo system. It's its own designated mode. This is where I would say the most replay value comes in. Remember those collectibles I mentioned? Well, if you manage to get all of them while maintaining a combo throughout the entire level, you'll get the special Cracked rank at the end. There's only 2 ranks, Unranked and Cracked, so there's really no incentive to get the best rank if you're a casual player, but if you're like me and messed up in the head, this is incredible for replay value. These are both really fun, and make sure if you want 100% the game, you'll be playing through every level at least 3 times. 36 levels, yeah, okay, I'm not doing that for this video. Almost definitely in my free time, but not for this.
The final boss of the game.
This shit is insane, man. The first phase is really insanely difficult for like no reason, mostly because you can only just barely jump over him. Really wish they would have just made him like slightly smaller, but whatever. Then after beating his ass and breaking his mirror, he runs off where you have to chase him. Then him turning into this giant crab thing where you have to run away. He then knocks you out and siphons your redness, in which all of the alcohol you've collected up to this point will start circling around you in Undertale, which turns Anton into this f***ing thing. And the fight from there is literally just Chef Saltbaker from Cuphead in the Delicious Last Course, complemented beautifully by the final phase being the devil from just base Cuphead. And as a final screw you, he blows up the world. Game ends here. I'm sorry, I just needed to talk about all of that because Jesus Christ. I have no idea what any of that was, but I loved every second of it. I suppose I should go over all the complaints I've built up by now. I mean, I still don't like Small Buster. I mean it when I say it. Anton Blast might be one of, if not the best 2D platformer ever made. It might have taken a very long time to get here, but the wait was surely worth it. Every facet of this game is just oozing with creativity and charm that I can't just help but soak up every droplet of joy coming from Anton Blast. Its style being more like an Adult Swim cartoon opposed to the likes of Nick or Cartoon Network is insanely good looking. Its writing and humor are both top notch. It plays like a dream. This genuinely might be the perfect platformer. I'm not really sure if I can come up with anything negative to say about it except for 1 or 2 of the bosses were a little difficult. That's really all I have.
The game is only $20, and I would say you would get more than that out of this. If you liked any Wario Land or Pizza Tower, then you will love Anton Blast. I painted myself red for this video, dude. Could you at least buy it for that?